Yes, I would like to say something.
Go ahead.
I'm innocent. Fuck you all. You're garbage.
That's all, Your Honor.
Ms. Dollar, I don't know that that's appropriate here.
February 16th, 2023. Hennepin County District Court. The courtroom is packed as Judge Jay Quam prepares to sentence 29-year-old Julissa Thaler for the murder of her 6-year-old son Eli Hart. Thaler sits at the defense table with an unsettling calmness. Throughout her trial, she showed no emotion as prosecutors detailed how she shot her son up to 9 times with a shotgun before hiding his body in her trunk. Even when the jury returned a guilty verdict after less than 2 hours, her face remained blank. She seems to believe she's untouchable, that despite the overwhelming evidence, she'll somehow escape justice. In the front row sits Eli's father, Torrey Hart, with his partner Josephine. Between them is a framed photograph, Eli's kindergarten picture, showing a gap-toothed smile. That photograph is why everyone is here. Family members delivered devastating victim impact statements.
This kind of trauma. But we have been sentenced to a lifetime of this pain. Confusion, grief, sorrow, and trauma. A lifetime without Eli.
They describe the little boy who loved bubbles and toy, cars, the child who deserved to live. Throughout it all, Julissa Thaler shows nothing. No tears, no remorse, just cold emptiness.
Every parent, the worst nightmare of every parent. There's a difference between us, though, Tori. I couldn't do what you did.
Then Judge Quam asks if she wants to address the court. Her attorneys advised against it, but she stands anyway. The courtroom falls silent, and then she says it.
Like, to choose to speak, now is the time to do it.
Yes, I would like to say something.
Go ahead.
I'm innocent. Fuck you all. You're garbage.
That's all, Your
4 words followed by obscene insults directed at everyone present. She proclaims her innocence and tells the entire courtroom to go to hell. Gasps fill the room. Family members shake their heads in disgust. Even the bailiffs look shocked. This woman murdered her 6-year-old son. The evidence was overwhelming, and her final words are defiance and delusion. Judge Quam takes a breath, and then he delivers the justice she never expected. But to understand this moment, we need to go back. Back to the investigation. Back to the evidence. Back to the trial that exposed a monster. This is the story of how Julissa Thaler murdered her son and believed she'd walk free, until the judge had the final word. May 20th, 2022. Late morning. Orono, Minnesota. Sergeant Matt Siltala spots a silver Chevy Impala making a horrible scraping sound. The rear window is shattered. The car is barely moving on 3 tires and 1 bare rim. He conducts a traffic stop. When he approaches, he sees blood on the driver's hands, a shotgun shell on the floor, a spent casing in the back seat, a bullet hole through the seat fabric. Officers determine probable cause to search. They call backup, secure the scene, then they open the trunk. Inside, wrapped in a blanket, is the body of 6-year-old Eli Hart, shot multiple times. His mother, Julissa Thaler, is arrested immediately. The investigation begins, and what detectives uncover is absolutely chilling. Forensic analysts track tire marks and scrape patterns across multiple locations. They piece together Thaler's route from the night before. She had driven to Lake Minnetonka Regional Park after dark, crashing through a gate that blocked vehicle access. She drove deep into the park to an isolated area near rock formations. That's where she murdered her son. Eli was strapped in his booster seat, unable to escape. His mother fired up to 9 shots at point-blank range, 9 separate trigger pulls, 9 separate decisions to keep killing her own child. After the murder, she ran over rocks trying to exit, blowing out her tire. But she kept driving on the bare rim for miles, leaving scrape marks on roads throughout the area. Surveillance footage shows her stopping at a gas station, disposing of evidence in a dumpster, including biological material from her son. She was methodical, calculated, covering her tracks. But investigators find something even more damning. Digital forensic specialists recover Thaler's complete search history from her devices. And those searches reveal premeditation that destroys any claim of impulse or mental breakdown. The searches are displayed: how to keep child away from other parent with visitation, how to fake being home to the cops, how much blood can a 6-year-old lose, qualifying accidental deaths, how much does life insurance pay for dead child. She researched murder. She planned it. She even looked into profiting from her son's death. Investigators interview the gun shop owner. Days before the murder, Thaler purchased a shotgun and 40 rounds of ammunition. When asked what she needed it for, she said she wanted ammunition that would blow the biggest hole possible. The gun found in her trunk matches. The ammunition matches. Everything points to premeditated first-degree murder. Thaler's boyfriend, Robert Pickerainen, provides crucial testimony. On the night of May 19th, Eli and his mother had a typical bedtime argument. Nothing serious, just a 6-year-old not wanting to go to sleep. But instead of calming down, Thaler left the apartment. She retrieved her shotgun from the car, grabbed Eli, strapped him in his booster seat, and drove into the night. Pickerainen went to bed, thinking she was taking Eli for a drive to calm him down. When he woke up the next morning and asked where she'd gone, her response was chilling. "I had to go do something." Investigators also uncover a darker history. Eli had been removed from his mother's care twice before. Police had responded to Thaler's home 21 times in 10 months. She'd been arrested for stealing drugs from a health clinic. Drug testing facilities reported bizarre behavior, so concerning they refused to work with her. Child protection workers documented extensive concerns. Internal emails show they knew Thaler was unstable and dangerous. But despite warnings, Eli was returned to her custody. On May 10, 2022, just 10 days before the murder, a judge awarded Thaler full custody. The system failed Eli, but it was his mother who pulled the trigger. February 2023. 9 months after Eli's murder, Julissa Thaler's trial begins in Hennepin County District Court. The prosecution has overwhelming evidence. The defense has nothing. Lead prosecutor Dan Allard knows he needs the jury to see beyond evidence, to understand who Eli was. Torrey Hart takes the stand. The emotion is overwhelming as he describes his son. Eli was born with a genetic disorder requiring multiple surgeries. He wore hearing aids. But none of that stopped him from being a joyful child. Torrey fought for years to be in his son's life. When Eli was 6 months old, Thaler took him and disappeared into a rehab facility. Torrey didn't see his son again until a chance encounter at a family wedding in 2019. They reconnected instantly. Torrey immediately began fighting for custody because he knew Eli wasn't safe with his mother. He drove 2.5 hours every Tuesday just to see his son. But the custody battle moved slowly. Too slowly. As Torrey testifies, jurors wipe away tears. At the defense table, Thaler shows nothing. No emotion, no remorse. Nothing. Forensic. Experts take the stand. They walk the jury through the crime scene evidence. Blood spatter patterns show the shooter stood outside the vehicle when firing through the window. Trajectory analysis proves Eli was seated and couldn't escape. The 9 shots prove sustained, intentional violence. Deputy Megan Thompson describes processing the vehicle. Blood throughout the interior, the bullet hole in the seat, shell casings on the floor, the shotgun in the trunk next to Eli's body. Ballistics experts confirm the weapon and ammunition match Thaler's purchases. The medical examiner testifies about Eli's injuries. The nature and extent leave no doubt about intentionality. This was execution, not accident. Then comes the most damning evidence. Digital forensic specialists present Thaler's search history to the jury. Each search appears on courtroom screens. How to keep child away from other parent with visitation. How to fake being home to the cops. How much blood can a 6-year-old lose? Qualifying accidental deaths. How much does life insurance pay for dead child? The searches demolish any defense of mental illness or impulse. This was calculated, planned, premeditated murder with attempted cover-up and potential profit motive. Defense attorney Brian Leary faces an impossible situation. His client was caught with the body, the murder weapon, the incriminating searches, no alternative suspects, no credible explanation. Leary makes a stunning decision. He calls 0 witnesses. The defense rests without presenting any evidence. In closing arguments, Leary makes a bizarre concession. He admits Thaler is guilty of something and aided and assisted in the murder. But he argues the prosecution hasn't proven she alone fired the shots. It's a desperate gamble. He offers no evidence of who else was involved, no theory, just vague implications that maybe someone else pulled the trigger. The jury doesn't buy it. Prosecutor Allard delivers a powerful closing. He reminds the jury of who Eli was, a little boy who loved bubbles, toy cars, and fishing with his dad. A child who probably thought he was going on a late-night adventure with his mother. Instead, the person he trusted most murdered him. Allard walks through every piece of evidence: the gun purchases, the disturbing comments at the gun shop, the Google searches, the isolated location, the 9 shots, the cover-up at the gas station. Everything points to one conclusion: Julissa Thaler murdered her son with premeditation and malice. Then Allard directs the jury's attention to Thaler herself. Throughout the trial, she's shown no emotion, no remorse, no humanity. The jury looks at the defense table. They see exactly what Allard wants them to see: a woman completely devoid of conscience. After closing arguments, the jury retires to deliberate. In cases this serious, juries often take days. Not this time. Less than 2 hours later, they reach a verdict. The speed speaks volumes. The evidence was overwhelming. The conclusion, obvious. Everyone returns to the courtroom. The jury foreman stands. Guilty of first-degree murder. Guilty of second-degree murder. Eli's family embraces, tears flowing. Some jurors leave the box crying. Court officials had offered them crisis counselors because of the graphic evidence they'd witnessed. At the defense table, Thaler shows no reaction, no fear, no acknowledgement, nothing. Outside the courthouse, Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty releases a statement calling Eli's murder one of the most horrific cases in 30 years. She expresses hope the verdict brings some measure of justice. Tory Hart's family releases their own statement thanking the jury and all justice partners. But they end with a powerful reminder. This tragedy could have been prevented if Eli had never been returned to a dangerous home. Under Minnesota law, first-degree murder carries a mandatory sentence: life in prison without parole. No exceptions. No discretion. Julissa Thaler will die in prison. But first, she gets one final chance to address the court. 1 week later, the family returns for sentencing. Eli's photograph is placed in the center of the courtroom. Family members deliver victim impact statements. Nikita Kronberg, Eli's foster mother, describes how he thrived in her care, how she fought desperately to keep him from being returned to his mother.
As I read the article, I had a gut feeling it was Eli that was found dead. Why? Should I have kept in contact with this monster after Eli was returned for the home trial?
It wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault at all. So the sooner you can let go of that, the sooner you can appreciate all the time that you did have.
Josephine Josephson speaks for herself and Tori, who stands beside her too devastated to talk. She describes the pain of losing Eli, pain so deep you can't breathe. She speaks about the empty holidays, the missing milestones, the absence of his laughter. She addresses Eli directly. You were the happy 6-year-old boy, our little boy that we loved so deeply.
The love and bond they shared every second they were together. They had this extra spark between them that everyone could see. Now we only have memories. And they're not enough.
Throughout every word, Thaler sits motionless. No reaction to the pain she's caused. No acknowledgement of the lives she's destroyed. Then comes the moment everyone's been waiting for. Judge Quam asks if Thaler wants to address the court. Her attorneys advised against it, but she stands. The courtroom holds its breath. And then she delivers her final statement. She proclaims her innocence despite overwhelming evidence.
If you'd like to choose to speak, now is the time. to do it.
Yes, I would like to say something.
Go ahead.
I'm innocent. Fuck you all. You're garbage. That's all, Your Honor.
Ms. Fowler, I don't know that that's appropriate here.
Sorry I told you what somebody else can.
Then she launches into a profanity-laced tirade, telling everyone to go to hell and calling them garbage. The courtroom erupts in shock. Eli's family shakes their heads, some crying, some too angry for tears. This woman murdered her 6-year-old son, was convicted by a jury, heard heartbreaking statements from grieving family, and her response is defiance and insults. Judge Quam lets the commotion settle. When the courtroom quiets, he speaks with measured authority. He addresses the sacred trust between parent and child, how Julissa Thaler violated that trust in the most heinous way imaginable. He acknowledges the systemic failures that contributed to this tragedy, but he makes clear that one person bears full responsibility, Julissa Thaler. He formally addresses the defendant. She's been convicted of first-degree murder in the death of her son. Under Minnesota law, the sentence is mandatory. Life in prison without possibility of parole. She will never walk free. She will spend every remaining day behind bars. She will die in prison for murdering her innocent child. Even then, Thaler shows no emotion, no fear, no remorse, just emptiness. Bailiffs escort her from the courtroom. The doors close behind her with finality. Julissa Thaler begins her life sentence for the murder of Eli Hart. In the months after sentencing, something beautiful emerged from tragedy. Eli's family and the Mound community refused to let his death be the end of his story. The Eli Hart Foundation was established to advocate for children in foster care and push for child protection reform. Nearly 200 community members raised $200,000 to build a playground in Eli's honor at Surfside Park. Why a playground? Because Eli loved playgrounds. Because playgrounds represent childhood joy and innocence. Everything Eli deserved. Tory Hart filed a federal lawsuit against Dakota County Social Services, alleging negligence. The goal is accountability and systemic change so no other child suffers Eli's fate. Eli Hart was 6 years old. He loved bubbles and toy cars. He loved fishing with his dad. Through everything, he remained a joyful child who just wanted to be loved. Julissa Thaler sits in prison today, where she'll remain until she dies. She maintains her innocence. She shows no remorse. But justice prevailed, though it came too late to save Eli. At Surfside Park, children play on equipment built in Eli's memory. They laugh and run with carefree joy. Eli's legacy isn't defined by how he died. It's defined by how he lived, with joy, with energy, with a heart full of love. Rest in peace, Eli Hart.